Hello, this is Carlos Huerta, and this video has the purpose of becoming a material that would assist instructors to plan their COIL modules, their collaborative online international learning modules. This is part of a partnership taking place between the state of Guanajuato and State Central Community College District. I am the main contact, Carlos Huerta. That is my email and my cell phone number, as well as Dr. Margaret Hebert, Coordinator of International Education for State Central Community College District. So, COIL is a methodology where two instructors, you and your partner, through shared content and interactions, have students from both classes interact in smaller teams, international student teams, to develop a project, but as well to practice flexibility, generosity, and other soft skills that are not necessarily put into practice when academic activities take place during a course. Now, one of the important things to take into consideration is that before you start planning a COIL module, both instructors would have to put together at least 3 learning outcomes. And what I'm sharing with you here is an example of 3 generic learning outcomes that you could use as they are for your own COIL program, or adapt them, tweak them to adapt to your contexts and realities and what you would like students to be able to do. But I'm gonna read these 3 because these are generic, and like I said, you can use these or tweak them. Identify and synthesize similarities and differences in cultural, political, and social perspectives on the subject matter across COIL partners. That would be the perspective talking. And then articulate new insights into their own identity. That would be the cultural self-awareness, as well as negotiate differences in communication to achieve a shared outcome. That would be the intercultural communication component. And I'm going to take 4 minutes here to explain this slide, which represents the scaffolding of COIL activities. So there are 4 very distinct and phases when implementing COIL. There is a phase that is an icebreaker, where students get to know each other, build personal connections, become familiar with technology. There is a second phase called learning together, where students respond to a common reading or lecture, and then they discuss together asynchronously. These 2 first phases are or happen in the classes, both classes all together. What I mean is, at this point in 1 and 2, the students have not yet been broken up into mixed international teams. That comes when the third phase takes place, producing a shared outcome. Students in small groups work together to achieve a common goal, and then the final phase is reflection and debriefing, which can take place each class separately or together, both classes. And I'm going to explain what's on the left side of the screen. COIL module, let's say, lasts 6 weeks. Week 1 and 2 is for personal introductions, and for this, what I suggest is using Padlet and Padlet, which is think of it as an electronic bulletin board. And for that, I put together a couple of videos that I'm also going to share with you on how to use Padlet, and ideas on how to particularly use it for the purposes of COIL. Then during week 2, there is a reading or joint lecture. Now this lecture can be put together by the instructors, or they can just use a lecture that is on the web, and that is of particular interest for both classes, or a reading. Normally a reading will suffice. And then I also suggest you create another Padlet for this activity, where the students post their opinions to and comments to the reading or lecture. Towards the end of this phase, the mixed international student teams are formed, and then what comes after is 2 or 3 weeks of working together collaboratively and these are the teams that are going to be developing a project or an outcome. And so I will explain more on how to think of or how to have students do these projects. Some instructors decide that they're going to have one same project be developed by each of the mixed international teams or student teams, or they could have a menu of projects where students can pick from, and each of the teams can develop a different project. And then the last week would be for students to share their projects, which could be a PowerPoint presentation, could be a poster, could be an info poster. It could also even be a video. And then students reflect on the experience as well as the COIL module assessment. So this PowerPoint presentation is going to have blank slides, because these slides are for the both instructors to populate. First of all, they're gonna put here in this slide the 3 learning outcomes for their COIL module, and then the next slide you're gonna decide what to do for the icebreaker on the first Padlet, whether it is just have the students introduce themselves, or you ask them some more information about their likes, dislikes, their hobbies. You're going to decide what you're going to have your students do. Obviously, instructors as well post on the Padlet their participation and any other additional instructions for the COIL module. Then for the second Padlet, the learning together phase, you're going to put here in this slide what reading or lecture you're going to have your students read or watch, and preferably for each of the Padlets, you are going to add here the web address for each of the Padlets, and then then producing a shared project or outcome, which would be the third Padlet, where the students work together in mixed international teams. We are going to go deeper into how to help students work in international teams during these 2 or 3 weeks. They're going to be sort of on their own, but not necessarily on their own, because the instructors are going to be monitoring and checking in. And then the final Padlet reflection debriefing, how you're going to have your students do this. Key points to take into consideration: less is more. Let's try to be conservative. These are only 6 weeks. Normally, what has happened is with previous COIL modules is that once they're done and we assess and have students and instructors give their comments on how the experience went, they reported they would have been better if they wouldn't they hadn't had asked that much of work. Less is more. Also important is that both classes are encouraged to interact and participate actively. Sometimes one side participates a lot, the other side does not, and so that for that we need to find a balance, and we can discuss how to do it. So decide jointly on how to assess, share learning objectives, and outcomes from the beginning with the group. During the producing a shared outcome phase, which lasts 2 or 3 weeks, make room in your class time to dedicate to each team a few minutes where they report to you the progress, what kind of tools they're using, whether they are synchronous or asynchronous, and how is it coming along, and how you as an instructor can assist them. Use your platform to check in with your students on their programs, and they can use, for example, Google Slides if they're gonna be creating a PowerPoint presentation or a poster. Um, I mean, there are different ways to have students use the same tool to develop their projects. Practice and ask your students to practice curiosity, flexibility, and generosity. The virtual exchange code of conduct, I'm going to share with you that letter that you're going to have your students sign. And then, above all, have fun, you as instructors, because you're going to learn from each other, and have fun as this experience takes place, and encourage your students to as well have fun. These are some of the references that I think I already have shared with you before, and please reach out to me, whether it is through email or phone number. I also use WhatsApp. If you have any questions, comments, if you need suggestions, if you need any kind of support, I am here to help. Thank you for your attention. Bye bye.